power of forgiveness. So please, let's give a warm welcome to one of our own.
Well, thank you all for being here. It's so exciting for me to see the people that I've met here at Unity, and it's really wonderful that my friends from Mirror Bay and my pool guy also came, and so that's very exciting. So I want to thank them. And I wanted to thank Linda, who invited me to speak. I had no idea it was going to be such a catharsis for me as I was preparing and going through, like, listening to TED Talks on forgiveness, reading all my old stuff, reading my chapters in my book on forgiveness to kind of remind me what I went through. It was really strange because stuff came up from my past, from like when I was 5 years old, molested by a pediatrician. I hadn't thought about that in many, many years. Like just all sorts of stuff that I hadn't thought about. So today, some things may come up for you as we do our meditation that you need to clear. So I think it's in, your whole life, you're going to need to clear things if you've been hurt or you've been offended. And sometimes, it's like Jesus said, how many times, Peter asked, how many times do I have to forgive, Lord? And then Jesus said 70 times 70, which really meant, like, oh my goodness, even when you think you've really forgotten or forgiven, it comes up again. Those thoughts come up again. So I need to give you the steps today. People say, oh yes, forgive. Well, it's really easy to say, yeah, just forgive. It's harder to do unless you have a process and steps. So I'm going to give you the steps, and I'm going to show you why you really need to forgive. It's, another friend came. All right. So Oscar Wilde, I'm going to just start out with this. Oscar Wilde had said, forgive all your enemies. It'll really annoy them. And then I read about this Sunday school teacher that had these little first graders, and she was teaching them about sin and prayer and forgiveness. So after the lesson, she said to the little kids, well, okay, what do you have to do before you ask God for forgiveness? And one kid raised her hand and said, I know, sin. So we don't have to sin, and in Unity we don't really believe in sin, right? We believe that you're off the mark. So, but I thought that was so cute, out of the mouths of babes. So what I want to do before we get into this, I want everyone to put your hand over your heart. Because today we're going to talk about healing the heart. So I want you to close your eyes for a moment and just breathe into your heart. Slowly breathe in and release. Breathe in just a beautiful pink quartz light of love. And breathe out any negativity, any thoughts that are not part of love. Okay, we're going to start now. Thank you. You can put your hands down, and hopefully we're all going to connect by our hearts. And I've read that there is no love without forgiveness, and there is no forgiveness without love. So love is, God is love, and we are love. And so this is really what we're talking about today. And I thank Marion so much for his beautiful song, because it really goes well. And he's going to be doing special introduction and meditation as well today. So who's hurt you? Think about somebody that has hurt you. I'm going to tell you a quick story. Now, I've had a lot of people that hurt me, but I'm going to tell one that I think we can all relate to, and that is a love relationship. I married my college sweetheart. We were young, and he decided after graduating in economics that he wanted to go to law school. So I supported him through 8.5 years of college, medical school. And when I did that, I had to work 3 jobs at once. I taught in one school in the morning, another school in the afternoon, and then resident manager for 200 apartments of drunk people that would wake me up all night long. So I did this because I learned from my mother, you stand by your man, you do everything right. So anyway, I did that, and we finally had our first son, and that was good. And then we waited a while, because then I said, well, it's my turn, I'm gonna go back to law school. Went back to law school, and then I was pregnant with my daughter, and that was good. Her middle name is Justine. I passed the bar the first time, everything was great. I thought our marriage was great. We finally, a doctor and a lawyer living in Southern California, and you know, we were so poor in the beginning, it was just like, now we have something. Well, my father-in-law died suddenly, and my husband came home. He says, you know, we got married too young, right out of college, the day after we graduated. And and I thought, well, you know, he's grieving. He's grieving. He sees his life is half over, according to his dad dying. 2 days later, he doesn't come home. And I'm frantically calling all the hospitals thinking he's in an accident. Doesn't come home all night. Well, I find out the next day that he had gone to a very, very expensive hotel in Southern California with his 22-year-old secretary. Wow. And here I am with a 1-year-old and a 6-year-old, and a few days later he moves out with her. Like, this was like sudden. His father dies, midlife crisis, whatever it was. So, you know, we tried therapy, you know, but he just couldn't give up the girlfriend. And I was pissed, okay? I was angry. I was furious. You know, I felt like I put everything into him, and then he just totally abandons me. And I had just graduated from law school, so I didn't really have my career going. And he's running off everywhere because he made a lot of money. So I said some things to him that weren't very nice. I said to him, since he started making money for the first time in his life, I said, well, I have to forgive myself for this, but I said, you're using your wallet as your organ. And then I said something even worse, but anyway. So I guess you can guess. So I was getting to the point where I didn't like myself. I didn't like how bitter I was. I didn't like that feeling inside of being angry. It was too much for me. So I walk into a metaphysical bookstore, and somehow I got led to Unity. And I had never been religious or anything like that, so I walk into Unity, and they talked about forgiveness. I thought, what the heck is that about, right? And I realized how important forgiveness was for me. It didn't matter about him. It mattered about me. And so that's how I went on my journey of forgiveness so that I could be free. And today's daily word really was apropos, right? About being free. You are not free if you don't release the anger, the resentment, the hate, everything. You just can't be free. So I wanted to share another quote here. Mahatma Gandhi said, the weak can never forgive. Forgiveness is the attribute of the strong, right? And when Nelson Mandela spent 27 years in prison, remember that in South Africa? He walked out of prison, and these reporters came up to him and they said, don't you hate them? Don't you resent that? You spent 27 years of your life in prison? He said, if I don't forgive them, I'm still in prison. Right? Now, that takes something have a friend, you may have heard of him, Azim Khamisa. I had him on my radio show years ago. And then I got to meet him in person when I invited him to speak at a meditation conference, a mediation conference. And Azim was a very astute businessman. One morning he gets a call that his only son, Tariq Khamisa, was gunned down when he delivered pizza. The kid who answered the door opened the door, and he shot and killed him as an initiation to get into a gang. Well, Azim went home and screamed and cried and just was devastated. He was a Sufi Muslim. And he heard a voice saying to him, this 14-year-old who killed his 17-year-old son, that there were victims on both sides of that gun. He kept hearing that, and he didn't want to hear it because he was angry, but he heard it. And long story short, he knew he had to forgive because he felt like I did. He felt like I can't live with this anger and this hate and this, it's eating me alive, right? It's eating me alive. So he ended up, obviously, Tony, the one who killed his son, did go to prison. But the long story short is, after about 4 or 5 years, that Azim went to visit him and forgave him. And it turned out that Tony lived with his grandfather, who was a very nice man, and Azim and his grandfather became good friends, and now go around, and he's written all sorts of books on forgiveness. They're fabulous. But they go around San Diego and all over the country, and they talk to kids about what happened not to join gangs. They have a foundation. So Tony's getting out of jail next year, and he's going to join them. He totally changed from this kid who wanted to get into a gang and killed. That was just, you know what he did? He was begging for forgiveness from Azim, and now he's like a monk now. He's like a monk. So it's a beautiful ending, but look what happened. When you forgive, miracles happen. Miracles happen. I had a client, a couple that came to me in mediation for divorce, and wife could hardly walk. She had lupus, but they didn't want to litigate. They came in, and he had cheated on her, and she was filled with rage and anger. And so being that I also have a master's in psychology, so, I blend the legal issues of, how to resolve the conflicts and have a legal divorce. But I also I could see what was going on. All this anger, I could see red around her face, right? And so we started talking about forgiveness, that you don't do it for him. No matter what he does, you're not doing it for him, you're doing it for yourself, because look what it's doing to you. So we worked on that in a few sessions, and then I hadn't seen him for a few weeks, and she comes in and she's like bouncing in. Wow. She goes, my doctor says I don't have lupus anymore. Wow. Whoa. Yeah, unforgiveness kills you. It kills you. So let's talk a little bit about the 3 issues about what happens when you're unforgiving, okay? Number 1, if you're angry, if you're resentful, if you're filled with hate, there are some things that are going on in your brain. Every single thought you have has a chemical reaction. So like if you're fearful, you get that adrenaline going, right? Cortisol, adrenaline, epinephrine. What do you think those are? Those are meant to protect you to get away from the bear or the alligator, right? But only supposed to be for a short period of time to just get you out of there. But if you ruminate about out your anger or fear or anxiety, if you ruminate on that, what does it do to you? It suppresses your immune system, okay? Because then your good hormones, like dopamine, serotonin, melatonin, oxytocin, which is the love drug, okay, if you suppress those, what happens? Biologically, you're going to get sick. You're going to get sick. I've had so many clients that, that come to me that they've gotten, during their divorce, they've gotten cancer, they've gotten all sorts of things because they're filled with rage. They don't know how to let it go. Let it go. So that's the biological aspect, the physical. You could die. Lloyd's, my husband's mother, his father left his wife after 30-year marriage for his secretary. I don't know, it's like a disease. So she was, and they had adopted kids that they just adopted. So she had young kids. She ended up dying of a heart attack, okay? Lloyd would say to her, let it go, Mom, let it go. I can't, that, you know what. So, he, SOB, whatever. In fact, when I first went to Unity and I couldn't forgive, I would take these tapes out. Those are the times when we used to have cassette tapes. And so I remember this minister that I was listening to, she goes, you have to start somewhere. Even if it's, I forgive you, you SOB. Which I called a different name. But yeah, so you have to start somewhere. Right? You have to start somewhere. So that's the biological aspects, that it is truly every thought that you have has a chemical reaction. And you know that feeling, right? When you see somebody or you get triggered, where do you get it? You get it in your solar plexus, you get it in your shoulder, you get it in your back, your back aches, right? It is all body, mind, spirit. Okay, so that's biological reason. How about the social and economic and emotional reasons? I know when I was so angry, I don't think my friends wanted to be around me. I was one hell of a So, and no one wants to hear it, I would tell a good friend, but no one else wants to hear that, right? It's negative. Makes everybody sick. And I knew that. It wasn't good for my friends. It wasn't good for me. It wasn't good for I wouldn't say it in front of my kids because I didn't want to hurt them. But it was hard. It was hard. So that's the social, the emotional part of it. It's unhealthy not to forgive. And finally, spiritually, I was spiritually bankrupt. And that's how, thank God, I was led to Unity. But if you're angry all the time, you can't even let God in. So Rumi talked about that, what did he say? The light comes, let me say, the light is where the wound, what is it? I forgot. Anyway, you get the idea. The light comes in where the wound was. So you have to let the light in. If you're going like this and you go stay away and you don't let God in, then the wound is just going to fester. It's going to fester. And so, like Lloyd's mom, she was bitter till the end. That wasn't healthy for her. So for me, when I let go, when I really let go and said, you know what, I said, God, forgive him for he knows not what he's doing, just like Jesus said, right? I thought, okay, that's right, he doesn't. I had to reframe in my head that my ex was doing the very best he could with the mentality that he had. He was doing the best he could. And when I really let that go, it was a hard time. My mother had just died, and I went to Hawaii for a bar convention, and Lloyd's son was working on the beach and fixed us up because he was going through a divorce. We were both dumb bees. His wife cheated on him, so we're like, two peas in a pod. But had I not let go, wouldn't meet my husband, who I'm with him like, what, 34 years, 35 years? He's a good guy, he's a good guy. But, you know, had I not let go, then where would I be? I have a friend, my very best friend, she can't let go of the past, and she doesn't understand why she doesn't have a relationship. On one hand, you know, she says that she wants a relationship, but she really doesn't, because she is so fearful of what's going to happen. That the same thing's going to happen. He's going to cheat, or he's going to do drugs, or he's going to do something. So we all have to let go. Okay, so we talked about that. What is forgiveness? So, anybody want to tell me what forgiveness is? What is it? We've been talking about it, but we didn't say what it is. Forgiveness? Part of it is really letting go, and I'll just read from one of my chapters here. The name of this chapter is Forgive Me Not. Okay, so forgiveness sets us free from the bondage and agony of old messages and harmful thoughts. In effect, it changes the perception of ourselves from a victim. How many of you want to be a victim? None of us, right? It changes from a victim who continues to wish that the past would be different to one who is empowered to see hope in the future. We cannot change the past, right? Like, when people say to me, oh, I should have done this, I would have, I could have, I would have, I should have. Hey, do you have a time machine? No time machine. You can't go back. All right, it changes the past, but we cannot change the past. But we can change our perception of it. Okay, whether your mother treated you bad, or your father treated you bad, or your kids treat you bad, you can just see them in a different light. Like my ex, I actually feel sorry for him. He's fourth marriage, he's miserable, but he doesn't want to get a divorce because it's too expensive. That's what he told my kids, you know. So, you know, when I officiated my son's wedding, Lloyd and I went out to Massachusetts. It was really wonderful, and I had written a text to my ex-husband, and I said, because the woman he's married to now won't let the kids in his house, right? So I said, gee, this would be a great time for you to be a mediator. But he didn't answer. But he did show up at the wedding by himself. And when I saw him, he came up, and because I had done all this forgiveness, he came up and hugged me. We had, I could tell you stories like you would not believe, but you don't want to sit here all day. So anyway, and it was a catharsis because like we talked about his parents when they were alive, which I loved them dearly. And we talked about my parents and all sorts of, my kids were looking at us like, this is weird, you know? But we talked about so many things, and we laughed about things that we did when we were young, and our first dog, and it was such a catharsis that never would have happened had I not forgiven. And I don't know about what he did or not, but I think it's karma, all of his wives and losing money about it. But truthfully, it was a catharsis, and that wouldn't have happened had I not done the work. And every time I remember going through, I went through therapy, and I wanted to let go. And so my therapist was very spiritual, and she would just say, every time a thought comes in about him, maybe in bed with her or whatever, which I used to think about, she'd say, think of something else. Just, you have the power to change your thinking. You have, those thoughts come in, those are not, you don't have to be a victim to your thoughts, right? So, I would do that. And then, after a while, you just stop thinking about it. So you have to really be conscious and mindful of the thoughts that you have. So, let me just read this last sentence. We can cannot change the past, but we can change our perception of it and release ourselves from bitterness. Okay, we alter our perceptions, and that is the resolution. So what we're going to do in a minute, and I see my wonderful musician will be helping me here. What we are going to do is we're going to do a meditation to release, okay? But I first want to tell you the 4 steps that I had to go through. And this is on the back. By the way, this is the teacher, Professor, and me. I gave you these handouts so that you can take it home and remember. You don't have to take notes, but it just helps you. And so I'm going to give you the 4 steps to release. Number 1, recognize. Recognize exactly what happened. Okay? Just say to yourself, this is what happened. He had an affair. That's it. And I recognize, and I have every right to be angry. Right? That's normal human behavior. Second one is release. Release it. Talk to a best friend. I did a lot of journal writing. And when I finally, when I thought I had gotten it done, I had a whole box of journal writing. I threw it into the fireplace and burnt it up and said, that's done. I'm done. I am no longer going to let him rent space in my head. No more. Right? Okay, so then you release any way you can. And you can talk to a best friend and cry. Cry your eyes out like Marion was saying in the, those 3 steps there. And then reframe. What could be good about this? What could God really want me to do with this? Right? And how can I look at him or her differently? Answer those questions, and you'll realize, they just did the best they can. Most of the time they don't do it to hurt you. Sometimes people do it to hurt you, but they're really messed up. Okay. And then finally, resolve. Now this means when you resolve to forgive, you say, I am done. I am done with that. I resolve to forgive, not for him or her. I resolve for me. I want to. Forgive means to give for yourself. Give it for yourself so you're free. So you're not chained to the past. You're able to move forward, right, with freedom, which is what we read in there. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to do this beautiful Hawaiian prayer that has literally healed tons of people, and it's called Ho'oponopono. Ho'oponopono. How many of you ever heard of Ho'opono? Oh, see, a lot of you know. Okay. And basically it is to help you bring things into balance again, to let go, basically. And so we're going to do this meditation, and there's only 4 sentences that you say. And it's, here we go. So I can read it. Yeah. And the first 4 sentences, okay, he's going to start with I love you. And you can start either with I love you, or you can end with I love you. And the first one is I'm sorry. Acknowledging what happened, because we have to forgive ourselves. I have to forgive myself for things that I said to my ex, right? And then the second step, after you say I'm sorry, then the next step is please forgive me. And then as we learn in unity, you thank for something that's already happened, that you want to happen. So then you say thank you, and then you say I love you, but he's going to start with I love you. So that's what we're going to say together. And so you start thinking about someone you want to forgive, and it may be something from way, way back. And I'm going to ask you to put your hand over your heart again and close your eyes. And then we're going to, and then you can start, Marion.
I love you. this from the floor because I want you to sing with me. I love you. I'm sorry, please forgive me. Thank you. I love you. I'm sorry, please forgive me. Thank you. I love you. I'm sorry, please forgive me. Thank you. One more time. I love you. I'm sorry, please forgive me. Thank you.
We can lower the lights now. Keep your eyes closed. And again, cover your heart. Because today we're healing our hearts. Breathe in a beautiful golden light right into your heart. And breathe out any hurt from the past. Breathe in a beautiful quartz pink ray of energy, of love. And breathe out any pain. For our heart is where forgiveness starts. Brings love to us. So right now, remember a time when maybe you were not so kind to yourself. Maybe you self-sabotaged. Maybe you said something that hurt you. Maybe you took poor physical care of yourself. And so it's time, first of all, to forgive yourself. And that may be one of the hardest, to forgive yourself. So in your mind's eye, I want you to see yourself, your higher self, speaking to yourself, looking yourself in the eyes as if you're looking in a mirror. And I want you to say to yourself, after me, I am sorry. Please forgive me. Thank you. I love you. Feel that warmth. Feel that release. And now I want you to think about a time when perhaps you said something unkind, or you did something even inadvertently that hurt someone else, but you found out about it. I want you to feel that you can say to that person, whether they're passed on in life or they aren't in your relationship anymore, I want you to see your higher self looking at this person. It may be a child, maybe you said something stupid to a child, or to an ex, or to your spouse now, that you want to be healing that situation. So I want you to look at that person in the eye, in your mind's eye, and with all sincerity, you repeat after me to yourself, with sincerity. I'm sorry. Please forgive me. Thank you. I love you. And just feel that release. Feel that golden light of illumination all around you. Feel that serenity in your heart. And now, a harder one. Think of someone that hurt you deeply. Someone who offended you. Someone maybe who physically abused you. And now, what you're going to be doing is having that person's higher self say to you, to ask you for forgiveness. So even if they would never forgive, or even if they've passed on, or even if you don't know where they're living anymore, as Einstein says, energy is everywhere and everything. So energetically, we're going to change that and give you the forgiveness, because many times people won't ask for your forgiveness if they've hurt you. So in your mind's eye, see that person say to you, and repeat after me, I'm sorry. Please forgive me. Thank you. I love you. Now feel that energy of release. Feel that serenity. Feel that letting go, letting God. And now, I want you to say to yourself after me, I release you. I release the past. I let go of any anger. I let go of the hurt. I let go of the resentment. I know we are all just doing the best we can. I'm released from the bondage of the past. I am free. I'm filled with compassion for myself and all those who I need to forgive. I am forgiven. I am forgiving. I am love. Thank you, God, for this release. Our hearts are healed. The power of forgiveness sets me free. And just bathe in that serenity right here and right now and say, thank you, God. And when you're ready, you can open your eyes. And Marion's going to sing once more. Oh, no. You can close your eyes while you sing this. That'll help you go inward.
Sing along. I love you. I'm sorry, please forgive me. Thank you. I love you. I'm sorry, please forgive me. Thank you. I love you. I'm sorry, please forgive me. Thank you. Sounds really good. Love the energy. I love you. I'm sorry, please forgive me. Thank you. I love you. I'm sorry, please forgive me. Thank you.
Beautiful, thank you so much, Miranda. And thank you guys for your smiles and your attention. And it's my hope that your hearts are healed and you recognize the power of forgiveness. It's changed my life, and I know many of you have been working on it yourselves, so thank you. I have this book. If anybody's interested, you can look at it. It sells for $16.95 on Amazon, and I'm just going to sell it if people want it for $12 today. And then there's another book that I brought. I've written 5, but I brought these I thought would be apropos. And the other one is called Stepping Stones to Success, and I co-authored with Deepak Chopra and a bunch of Dennis Waitley. So that also sells for $20, but I'm going to sell it for $12. So I'll be back there if you want it. No pressure. Just thank you.
Thank you for your wonderful message.